Hi everyone, Dr. Brooke Kolesiak here from Legacy Physical Therapy. I hope everyone is having a good Thursday and looking forward to learning a little bit today. So today we're going to talk more specifically about hip pain. I have had a couple of patients as of late come in and complaining about hip pain especially when they run or they're doing like HIIT workouts or kind of higher level exercise stuff. And the pain is kind of really deep in the front of the hip. It can sometimes go around to the buttocks area, but both of them had previously tried many different things. So they've tried stretching, they've tried strengthening exercises, they've done foam rolling, they've worked with a chiropractor, they've even worked with another physical therapist. And despite all of this work, they haven't gotten their symptoms better. And thankfully, they ended up in our world here at Legacy Physical Therapy. And I want to talk to you today about what can potentially be a common culprit for hip pain that is oftentimes missed. And so in order to do so, I'm going to grab my pelvis here. You know I love to show the pelvic model. I'm going to try and make sure. There we go. So again, looking at our pelvis, we've got our pubic bone in the front, and we've got our tailbone in the back. And on the very bottom is our pelvic floor muscles, okay? And they go from our pubic bone in the front to the tailbone in the back, okay? And so these muscles, there's a superficial layer of them, and there's a deeper layer of these muscles, okay? And that pelvic floor is the bowl on the bottom of the pelvis that helps to hold things up, make sure we have normal bowel and bladder habits. It's the bottom of our core. It's involved in sexual function as well as support, as well as continence issues. So you've heard me talk about the pelvic floor many, many times. But today what I want to do is I am actually going to take the floor out of the pelvis. Okay, so we don't want this to happen. That could be very bad. But anyways, I'm going to take the pelvic floor bowl out. And now we are left with a hole in the bottom of our pelvis where those pelvic floor muscles were. But what we're also left with is these two flappy muscles that are right here on the front of the pelvis. And this is kind of hard to see in. I'm going to tip and let you see inside. So these guys come along the front inside wall of our pelvis. And then they see how this right here is our hip socket. So they go right behind our hip socket. These muscles are still going along on the inside wall. And they come out, they're cut in my model here, but they come out in the buttocks and around to the back side of the hip socket here. And so they come out and they're going out and attach on the outside of the hip. And these muscles are called our obturator internus muscles. And they are part of a complex of muscles that help to rotate our leg out to the side, okay? The rest of these muscles that do it are all in the back side of the buttocks area here. This is the only muscle that kind of makes that dive forward on the inside part of the pelvis. So this muscle actually makes a 130, I don't know if I can do it, 130 degree turn around a bone. And so that can be kind of problematic because it can put extra stress and strain on that muscle. And so this is a muscle that is commonly the culprit for pelvic pain issues and for hip pain issues that is maybe missed because of its location and how it moves. The obturator internus muscle can get frequently strained because it can get pulled into a long position. And why does it get pulled into a long position? Well, we women a lot of times are kind of socially taught to keep our legs together. Okay, we don't man spread usually, and so we sit with our legs crossed, sometimes like wrapped all around each other. I can't do that, but crossed up, our knees in. We oftentimes get up and down from a chair in that position. So when we're squatting, we bring our knees in together. When we stand on one leg, we can see our knee kind of drop in. All of this is a sign that that muscle might be long and weak and not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And that can in turn lead it to cause pain. And the pain may not be focal to the pelvic area, the vagina area. It actually may be closer out to around the hip socket. And that's why it oftentimes gets confused for hip pain. Okay, so one of the things to check to see if this muscle is functioning well for you is seeing if and there can be other causes with it too, but this is a couple of things that you can kind of do and look at. Is one, when you get up and down from a chair, do your knees knock in together? Or if you're doing squats for exercises, can you keep your hips over your knees, over your toes? Or do we get this kind of diving in action that happens when we're squatting? If we're getting any kind of diving in, that could be a sign that the obturator internus muscle is not functioning well. And it could also mean that some other muscles may have some strength issues. Another thing that I see frequently is when someone is going to stand on one leg. I'm going to see if I can stand up here. Oh, there you go. Well, it's not going to show very well in that, but when I stand up, I should be able to keep my pelvis level and stand. So when I shift my weight, oftentimes I see people kind of jut out to the side. So there's my hip jutting out to the side versus it staying level. Okay, that's not a good view, so I'm going to come down from there. So if my hip dips out to the side, that again could be a sign that that muscle is lengthened and strained, too weak, not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so if I have that happen just simply when I go to stand on one leg, think about running. Running is a repetitive one leg, then the other leg, that we just keep going back and forth to standing on each of those legs. With kind of a pounding action in between. And so each time we shift our weight to the other side, we may be putting more stress and strain through that muscle. So again, just to reiterate, we're talking about the obturator internus muscle, which is on the front inside of the pelvis. This little red guy here comes all the way through the pelvis, going behind the hip socket itself, and it comes out into the buttocks area and comes around and attaches out to the outside of the hip. And it ends up rotating the leg out to the side. And in many women, it is long, strained, and weak. And this can lead to dysfunction over time. And it can show up in the form of hip pain. It can show up in the form of pain with sex, buttocks pain, even pain that goes up into the abdomen, vaginal pain. So this muscle runs by many kind of pertinent structures down in the pelvic area, and so oftentimes can get confused for pain or problem in another area. So like I started out today, if you are dealing with hip pain and kind of the normal route and treatments that you've tried haven't been getting you better, we may be missing out on the component that is the obturator internus muscle. And one of the best ways to look at it and see what's going on with it is honestly to work with a pelvic physical therapist, because we have the training to assess this muscle internally, which is where the majority of the muscle belly is. And so the best way to be able to get at it is actually to insert a finger into the vaginal canal and come up onto that muscle internally. That's where most of the muscle bulk is. It's not a muscle that's easily accessible from the outside. Okay, and this is why it oftentimes may be missed with other treatments that you're doing. So if you are dealing with hip pain that is not getting better, please consider that it may be coming from a deeper muscle structure, and that may need to be assessed. And so we'd be happy to partner with you to try and figure that out for you. But we just want to make sure that that information is out there so that you feel like you can move forward and exercise and move the way that you want to without hip pain or problems.